Spirit is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. Now those lines again represent frequencies, levels of vibration. You know what frequencies are? They're levels of vibration, okay? Now understand this. Spirit operates by law. The law is a uniform and orderly method of the omnipotent God. The higher side of your personality is the spiritual side, then the lower side is the physical. But the part that makes you the human is the intellectual part. And let's understand this. Each frequency is hooked up to the one above and one below. Do you know what that means? The side of you cannot see is exactly the same as the side you can see. It's only in a different level of vibration. Think of this for a moment. This glass was, at one time, sand. The glass is energy. The water in the glass is energy. The glass at one time was sand. We altered the molecular structure of the sand, and it became glass. When we take and tap into the non-physical, we can change the world. We're spiritual beings, and we have an intellect, and we live in a physical body. This is really important we get this. When we activate our intellect, we can tap into this non-physical world that we are made of, and we can build ideas. Where do we get them? From thoughts. We think thoughts, and we build ideas. And those ideas will begin to move into form. Where? With and through us. This is how things happen. The problem with most people is they're thinking what they don't want. I was working last weekend with Arielle Ford. Yet she's into manifestation. She's a great teacher. And we were talking about it, and she said, I'm really good at it. And I said, you know something, Arielle? Everybody's good at it. Everybody's really good at manifestation. The problem is they're manifesting what they don't want because they're holding the image of what they don't want. You've got to hold the image of what you do want. Quit thinking of what you don't want. Most people are extras in their own movie. Become the star of your movie. Let everybody else be an extra in your movie. They should be the star in theirs. Now, to do that, you have to ask, what do I really want? Look, you have infinite potential. I got to go through this fairly fast. You think in pictures, okay? The mind is, without question, the most powerful force in the whole universe. Now, look at this. What does your mind look like? You know what your car looks like. If I say car, you see a picture. What does your mind look like? Most people don't know. They really don't know. Now, when there's no picture, there's confusion. So when you start thinking about your mind, you haven't got a picture, you get confused. What happens when you get confused? You turn on the TV. Get lost in somebody else's world. What we've got to do is get rid of the confusion. Out of all confusion comes order. And it's a higher degree of order than that which existed prior to the confusion. We've got to build the picture when we've got to see how the mind functions, and we can learn that. I'll be seeing a man this week who's a psychiatrist. I coached him for a year. He said I taught him more in a year than he learned in 4 years of medical school, 5 years of psychiatric training. They had no picture. I gave him a picture. I always found it interesting. I just taught him what a good doctor taught me. He was a doctor in San Antonio, Texas, back in 1934. And he said, our problem is we're treating symptoms. He was very much into holistic health, but he couldn't get it across. He said, we got to treat the mind. So he says, there's a picture of the mind. That's what most people do. They see it and they laugh. That'll turn into a genie. You want to pay attention to it. Look at it. We'll say that's the conscious mind, that's the subconscious, and there's the body. Now, the conscious mind operates quite different from the subconscious. This is your thinking mind. This is the part of you that we call our educated mind. This is also the intellect. This is where your intellect is resident. And you know that's what separates you from all the rest of the animal kingdom. I think we mentioned that. All the little creatures in the world are completely at home in their environment because they operate by instinct. We had instinct removed and intellect put in its place. We're totally disoriented in our environment because we can create our own environment. Now, the subconscious is quite different. That's your emotional mind, where the conscious mind has the ability to choose. You can choose anything you want. You can choose to think of why you can't, or you can choose to think of how you will. You have the ability to accept or reject anything I'm saying or anything the news or TV saying. You can accept it or reject it. When this jazz comes out about a bad economy, you don't have to buy into that. Tell them to go to hell. I'm not buying it. I'm going to create my own economy. You have the ability to originate. I sat in a den, in a room in Maplewood Lane in a house in Glenview, Illinois, and I built an image of having a company that operated all over the world. Our company operates now in about 89 countries. I'm going over to Florida to train more consultants next week. I know we've got them in from Budapest, from Bucharest, from different places in Europe, Australia. Why? Because I built the image. You build it, and they will come. Now look at, your subconscious mind operates quite different than your subconscious. Your subconscious mind must accept. It must accept whatever you give. If you give, I'm just not making it yet, you won't make it. Your subconscious mind has no ability to reject. This is so important. And here's the key, I mentioned it earlier. It cannot differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. If you can really grasp that, you are away to the races. Now here's you on two different levels. This is you today, and this is you when you're a child. You know why all of you held up your hand? They seem to be stuck. Well, I'm going to show you why. Now here you are here today. You have a reasoning factor. Reason is one of our intellectual factors. Because you have reason, you have the ability to think. And so when you hear this information coming to you from other people or from radio, TV, or newspapers, you have the ability to say, get out of here. You're not getting in my mind. But when you're an infant, you couldn't do that. Look at, you can say today, get out. But when you're an infant, it didn't work. Why? You had no intellectual factors. They weren't developed. And so whatever was going on around went right into your subconscious mind. Did you know the ideas that went in there then are controlling you now? Now, if you don't learn how to change that, odds are pretty good a year from now, you're going to be doing exactly the same thing. This is how our self-image was formed. You have an image of you. I have one of me. And that image is controlling everything you do. Your image is part of your paradigm. This is so basic and it's so misunderstood. If you want to change your life, you've got to change the paradigm. So there you are there. You have these sensory factors. They're like little antennae. And that's how we live. Why? Because that's where we're programmed to live. We're programmed to let what's going on outside control the inside. You don't have to do that. You have an intellectual mind, and you have intellectual factors. We talked about perception. Why do I say it's black and I'm white? Because that's what we see. We've got to change our perception. And when we change our paradigm, our perception changes. You give me a few days with you, I guarantee you, I will help you, and your paradigm will be shifted. You've got a will. The will is what gives you the ability to concentrate. The will is a very powerful mental faculty. It's what you want to put in control so that you shut down everything that's going on outside. You have an imagination. You have memory. You have your intuition. I read you fairly accurately, didn't I? Sort of scary, isn't it? No? That's because you're very intuitive. All right? And you have a reasoning factor. Now, we want to learn how to utilize them, and we can. And it's how you use your intellect determines whether the paradigm is going to leave town or not. You want to start to think into results rather than let the results control you. And when you do that, your world will change. And it'll change so fast and so furious. Now look at, when you change your paradigm, you become connected to an entirely different world. And you're going to love it. You'll absolutely love it. All right?